a comprehensive look at trends, fund profiles, and more in Exploring ETFs.
We're going to take a look at some of the top performing ETFs now. Top performing for the year, that is, with our ETF Research Director, Nina Mishra. So I'm going to guess that technology is a standout performer.
Yes. So first of all, this is the last video of
for
the year. Yes, the last ETF video of the year. So I thought it makes sense to discuss the top performing areas of the market areas that really shined in 2019. And it's been a great year for stocks. The broader index, the S&P 500 index, is up about 28% this year. The Dow, which is a price-weighted index, has been the underperformer. It is up about 23%. And one of the reasons why Dow underperformed is that it has been weighed down by Boeing's.
Their problems.
NASDAQ, which is tech-heavy, is the best performing major index. It's up about 35%. And if you look at this year's gains and last year's losses, so this represents the best year-over-year performance since 2009, when stocks were recovering from the financial crisis. And this excellent performance of stocks has been mainly due to an economy, the US economy, which continues to do well, remains healthy. Some of the recent economic reports, including the jobs report, they were better than expected. Then the Fed has been accommodative this year. They have cut rates 3 times already. And at the latest meeting, they indicated that a rate hike is not coming anytime soon. So the monetary policy will stay accommodative, and then positive developments on the trade fund regarding the phase 1 of trade deal with China. So all those reasons have helped stocks. Technology is the best performer. Technology sector is up about 45% this year, much better than the broader market. Energy is the worst performer. It has gained only 5%. Now, looking at some of the areas that are performing ETFs: solar, semiconductors, Palladium, who would have thought Palladium, and biotech too. So these are the best performing areas of the market. From these areas, I have taken one ETF each rather than talking just about semiconductor ETFs or solar ETFs. So that we are going to discuss now.
All right. So yes, there are 4 different ETFs here in these different areas, and we're going to start with the Invesco Solar ETF.
Hottest ETF of the year, with a great ticker symbol 10. And it holds solar energy companies, charges 70 basis points. It's a relatively smaller ETF, 410 million in assets. It's up about 58% in 2019. Now you should remember that this is usually very volatile. So if you look at the longer term performance, it's not so impressive. That is why not very popular with investors, with just over 400 million in assets. But this year, solar energy companies have done very well, and there are some reasons. First of all, with the latest technological innovations, the cost of producing alternative energy is really coming down, and solar energy has become really competitive in terms of costs with traditional energy. And some of the recent government regulations, like California now requires solar panels to be installed in all homes built after 2020. So that is also helping this ETF. Now, if you want to learn more about this ETF, you can go to the quote page on Zacks.com. I did a podcast with Invesco on this ETF, so you can listen to that podcast too to learn more about that ETF. And you can go to Invesco web page, look at the details, portfolio. So about 59% in information technology companies that enable solar energy companies, then utilities. industrials, and real estate. Now this has a lot of international exposure. That is another reason why it will be volatile. It will continue to be volatile. 45% in the US and rest is international. And you will see that a lot of exposure to small companies. In fact, if you look, almost 70% of the portfolio is in small size companies, so another reason for higher volatility. So investors should be prepared for high volatility if they look at this ETF. Now some of its old holdings have done really well, like Solar Edge Technologies, which is the top holding in this ETF, is up more than 150% this year. And Phase Energy is up more than 400% this year. So these holdings have driven gains for this ETF.
All right. iShares has the Semiconductor ETF that's done well.
So semiconductors, all ETFs have done very well. We have the largest, most popular ETF here on the slide. It follows a modified market cap weighting and imposes a cap of 8% on individual securities, 46 basis points in expense ratio, 2.3 billion in assets under management, up 57% in 2019. Now chip ETFs we have discussed separately in an episode 2. Chip ETFs, chip companies, they have a lot of exposure to China. So positive developments on trade fronts have helped these companies. And then there is a lot of growth coming from new areas like 5G, Internet of Things, cloud computing, self-driving cars, virtual reality, gaming. So those areas are driving demand for faster, more efficient chips. That is why these companies continue to do well. Let's take a look at this ETF. By going to the external home page, you can read our research report too for this ETF. Now, as I mentioned, it has 8% cap on individual securities. So if you look at the portfolio, NVIDIA, Intel, Qualcomm, Broadcom, and Texas Instruments are the top holdings. All these will be brought down to 8% at the time of next rebalancing.
The physical Palladium ETF is by Aberdeen.
The ticker is PALL, PAL. So Palladium is a precious metal.
Yeah.
It's a rare metal which is used in catalytic converters, basically to filter emissions in gasoline engines. Now the demand for this ETF has been rising because of more stringent emission standards all over the world. And recently, in the past few months, there have been a lot of supply problems because of power outages and strikes, etc., in South Africa, which is one of the top producers of this metal. So this demand-supply imbalance has created a spike in this metal prices. It's up more than 50% this year. So this ETF provides exposure to, it's a physically backed Palladium ETF. So you get exposure to the price of the physical metal, and it actually holds Palladium bullion in London and Zurich vaults. It charges 60 basis points, which is reasonable for the unique exposure that it provides. Has about 300 million in assets, 52% gains in 2019. Well, you can go to the quote page and read our articles. You can also go to the external homepage, but there is not much to learn about the holdings or anything. It's just about Palladium.
Okay. Then finally, the Virtus Life Science Biotech Clinical Trials ETF.
The ticker symbol is BBC. And as we discussed in a recent episode on biotech ETFs, small biotech companies are doing very well this year, particularly of late, because there is a lot of mergers, M&A activity in this space, where larger pharma companies, cash-rich pharma companies, they are acquiring these innovative biotech companies to boost their pipelines. There have been a lot of studies, cutting edge technology studies that have been successful. Some new therapies are being approved by the FDA. So that is why this is one of the top performers. It holds clinical trial stage biotech companies. It follows an equal weighted index. An expense ratio is 79 basis points, a bit expensive, very small again because it's very volatile, because it holds biotech, which is a volatile area, and smaller biotech companies,
even more so.
Clinical trial stage biotech companies, even more volatile, but it's up more than 51% this year.
Okay.
To learn more about the ETF, again, you can go to the quote page, and from the external home page, and you can learn about the holdings and other details. Now, some of these companies have done very well because of approval of their studies or better than expected results. As I mentioned, it follows equal weighting, but that some of these companies have done very well, so their stock prices have surged, but at the time of rebalancing, they will be equal weighted again.
So how do these compare?
So on this slide, I have the comparative performance of all these companies versus the S&P 500 index, which is up about 28%, and all these ETFs have gained between 50% and 60% this year.
And do you own either of them?
I own the Semiconductor ETF in the ETF investor portfolio.
All right, that's the last time I'll ask you that this year. Thank you for that. Always more ETF information is on our website, Zacks.com. In the ETF section, all you need to do is use the Funds tab in the top toolbar. It will help guide you there. And as Nina mentioned a moment ago, there is also ETF Spotlight. If you can't watch these videos, you can listen to a lot of interesting conversations regarding the ETF realm and a lot of what's going on in that area with Nina and her guests. And that's in the podcast section of Zacks.com. Again, go to the homepage, slip all the way down to the bottom of that page and click on the word podcast, and it will help guide you to that section. And for a limited time, if you haven't considered this already, you may want to do so, especially if you have time over this holiday season. You can follow a lot of what goes on with Zacks.com's market insights, buys and sell recommendations, and also stock recommendations from our services that typically are not open to the general public. They're only open to subscribers. This is an offer for a limited time only, and you can take advantage of this for $1, again, for a limited time. To find out more details, all you need to do is go to Zacks.com/promo. With Nina, I'm Terry Ruffalo.